So, guys, this is my review for Spirit Chronicles episode number 10. And with that, guys, let's jump right into this review of episode 10. Let's get it. So, the title of this episode was called A Spirit's Awakening. And basically, because the young lady, she looked so familiar at the end of episode 9 last week that I was literally thinking about the ending for a little bit. I just didn't go back and try to figure it out. But we find out that this spirit is actually this person is the spirit that is connected to Rio, and she fully awakens. And from what it seems like to me, it seems like from what Drius had told Rio a couple of episodes ago, maybe 3 episodes ago, when they had the conversation about the spirits and about the water they had and how much stronger these spirits are compared to her, that it would seem that eventually spirits that are connected to other people eventually, like they eventually awaken, they form a body, instead of just being like a spirit form where only the person that they interact with and are connected to can see. So it seems to me that these spirits eventually form a body, and like per the title, they become awoke, they become awake, and be able to be seen by any and everybody. So here in the episode, they end up they well, she ends up basically coming awake. Of course, Rio, he's like, oh man, like this is like what's really going on. Of course, the girls come in with Latifa, they're shocked and all. They're like, oh my gosh, like, and it's just one of those things that, Rio's trying to explain like it's a misunderstanding. And they're even like, one of them even saying like it is a misunderstanding, he's just laying here with this naked woman in his bed, blah blah blah. But what we end up finding out past the little small joking portion of it is that she has formed the body. She's connected with him. They can actually communicate through telekinesis. They can speak to each other, but anybody else can't hear their conversation. So they were actually talking to each other through their minds as well here in this portion of the scene. But what we do find out too is that she doesn't remember who she is, she doesn't remember her name. And eventually Rio ends up picking Aisha, his childhood friend, back from his past life with when he used to live as Haruto. And she actually was calling him Haruto a few times here in the scene. And of course Latifa and then we're just like, well, who's Haruto? And he's like, I'll explain that a little bit later, which he does, but in a different way. So, here in this scene, we understand that she's a spirit. She's in spirit form now. She's here, and now she's gonna be with Rio. But at the same time, she's gonna be having the name of Aisha, his childhood friend from back when he was Haruto back in his old life. Now, what we also found out is that Aisha can actually use some type of her spirit power to clothe herself, because she was, at the time, she didn't have any clothes. She was given a towel to cover herself, but then once she stood up and the towel fell, she was actually able to just form this clothing, a part of herself, and be able to just cover herself. So it kind of makes me think like too, like if she can do that, then maybe she can also, through the power of her through this spiritual power, that she can form like some armor or something, maybe even form a weapon or something like that. So it's just one of the things that I'm curious about, like maybe she can do that. Now obviously there's going to be something that goes on a little bit later in the episode that basically says to me like she doesn't need any type of weapon to form it or anything like that. But at least for this portion of the scene too, she can actually just do this automatically within a split second. So it just makes me think like maybe she can still apply some armor within a split second or something like that. So it was just something that I found very interesting with her character. Once they have that introduction with her, and her getting this name and figuring out some things, that they actually do end up meeting having Aisha meet the elders, have her meet Drius. They have a conversation because Drius is basically trying to figure out like who she is, if she remembers like where she came from and stuff. But again, she can't remember any of that. So they're just having the meet and greet conversation here, and eventually, like I said a minute ago, is that we get to actually see Aisha in action, because what ends up happening next, they're going to end up going outside and giving us a preview of what she can do as far as fighting and defending herself and stuff like that. Now, during that conversation from the scene prior, Drius asks Aisha, can she use any of the elemental spells and stuff like that, and she says that she can use all of them. She says she thinks she can. Originally, she says she can, but then she says, I think I actually can. And that's when they go outside here, and they actually have a little sparring match between her and Rio. And what Rio notices is that because he can use elemental spells, she's doing the same. He says it. He basically says, like, it seems like the connection that we have, she's learned these skill sets, these fighting abilities, and using these elemental spells and stuff like that. He's basically saying like it seems like she's gained that from being a part of me. So like the scene was just dope, guys. Like they're just moving and like moving real quick, real fast, all of that. But at the same time, because they're doing this, Drius has to tell them to stop, because it seemed like it was gonna cause more way more of an issue, because it basically seemed like it was going to cause some damage to the village, so they had to stop. But we at least get a chance to see Rio in action again. But again, this is like a sparring fight, but it's a really, really cool sparring fight from my opinion, guys. I really enjoyed the sparring action between these two, and just watching them use the elemental spells against each other. Eventually, after their spar, they end up having some downtime. Rio ends up getting his mobile home that he requested to receive, because he was going to be leaving soon. Pretty much like once the mobile home got built and was ready, he pretty much made his decision that, all right, I'm going to be leaving the village in 2 days. And of course, Latifah's upset. And, one of the girls talks to him about, like, you need to have a conversation with Latifah, because, you kind of been ignoring her. And he kind of realizes that, like, yeah, I've been so focused on this, that, and the third, that I haven't really been paying attention to my baby sister, right? So they end up having a little conversation, just about him, just like not forgetting about her, not forgetting about coming back. Just a really sweet moment. And at the same time, it was a interesting moment where they had this conversation in the tub, basically, but because she was washing his back at the time. But what we do find out for sure is that he's going back to Straw. He's going back to see Cecilia, right? But what they end up giving him as a couple parting gifts. They give him this it's like a greenish thing where at a push of a button it's a teleporter. It can teleport him from wherever he's at back to the village. But the only thing is that because it can teleport him, it's only a one-way trip, so it can't teleport him back to where he originally traveled from. So they gave him the teleporter, and they gave him this like earring that if he wears it, he can change the color of his hair at any given moment in time. So that's going to be beneficial because he's heading back to Straw. He's actually going to use that back when he's trying to come in contact with Cecilia. But we do find out something interesting about Cecilia even before he gets back there, and it's this right here. So this is what he looks like with his hair, his hair color changed. But when he finally gets back, some key information he finds out. Now again, we find out this information even prior to him even arriving. Now he's on his way, but we see Cecilia holding one of the postcards that he had sent her, and she basically looks, she looks kind of down and out, but she ends up running into Sir Charles. Charles is the guy that has always had an issue with Rio, even when he was a little boy. He's the one that tortured him, right? So when he's on his way, we notice this conversation between Cecilia and Charles. Charles says to Cecilia, she even she calls him Sir Charles, but he's like, well, you know, you're saying, I don't mind you calling me Sir Charles, but why don't you call me like darling or anything like that? Now that was a hint, right? So what ends up happening, what Rio finds out, because this is Aisha behind this guy. She's touching him, and she's finding out key information about Celia here, that she's actually beginning ready to be preparing to be wed to Sir Charles. And of course, this guy, she's using him to tell Rio this information. So of course, Rio is totally shocked by what he's being told, that she's getting ready to be prepared to be wed to Sir Charles, to come within, I want to say, within the next week or so. So yeah, it's about to pick up. It's about to get really interesting. But that's pretty much the episode, guys, in itself. So I'm definitely looking forward to episode 11 next week. It was this episode was fairly decent, but I did enjoy the sparring match between Rio and Aisha, and definitely the ending. I was just like, whoa. Like I said, when Sir Charles said to her, like, why don't you call me darling instead, I'm like, hold on, like, are they a couple? That was literally what I was thinking. I was watching this episode on the way home from work on the bus, and he said that. I'm like, whoa. Like, I put my mouth over my hand over my mouth and everything. Like, I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, are they a couple? So I'm kind of curious how that went about, how he approached her about this, and becoming and asking her for her hand in marriage. Like, was it forced? Because she doesn't look like she is really in love with Charles at all. So it's just something that's going to be interesting to see come episode 11 in next week's episode. But that's pretty much the episode, guys. If you watched episode 10, what did you all think of the episode when you first sat down and watched it for the first time? Leave some comments in the comment section below if you feel up to it, and I will talk to you all next time with more Spirit Chronicles. Peace, guys.